the double liberation, breaking invisible chains, and transforming systems. Thank you all for being here today. I'm truly honored to stand before you to share some transformative insights I recently gained from an extraordinary conversation with Tanya Williams, a visionary thought leader who has dedicated her life to reimagining what true empowerment looks like for Black professionals and entrepreneurs. Tanya's groundbreaking work has touched countless lives, creating ripples of change that extend far beyond individual success stories to reshape entire communities and industries. She is, without exaggeration, one of the most revolutionary thinkers of our time when it comes to understanding the psychology of empowerment and liberation. Her work has helped thousands break through both visible and invisible barriers. And today, I get to share her wisdom with you. What I'm about to share might fundamentally challenge how we typically think about empowerment for Black professionals and entrepreneurs. We've become accustomed to focusing almost exclusively on dismantling external barriers, the glass ceilings, systemic inequities, and lack of access to capital that have historically limited opportunity. These are real, persistent challenges that demand our attention and action. But what if I told you that's only half the story? The insight that Tanya Williams so powerfully articulated is that true empowerment requires a double liberation. It's not just about dismantling the systems that hold us back, but also about freeing ourselves from internalized limitations, those invisible chains formed by generations of being told to shrink, to settle for less, to doubt our own brilliance. This is the conversation we rarely have. We talk about breaking down doors, but not about healing the wounds that make us hesitate at the threshold. When we heal those inner narratives and embrace our full stories, that's when real transformation begins. That's when we don't just enter rooms, we transform them. That's when we don't just take seats at tables, we rebuild those tables entirely. Let me share three key insights from my conversation with Tanya that illuminate this path towards double liberation. First, empowerment starts within. The journey isn't just outward, it's also inward. Rewriting your own narrative and healing from internalized barriers is as critical as tackling external obstacles. We often invest tremendous energy fighting external battles while leaving the internal ones unaddressed. As Tanya puts it, you cannot fully rise when part of you still believes you should stay small. Second, community matters profoundly. Intentional connection with others who understand your journey creates a support system that amplifies individual growth into collective progress. We are not meant to transform in isolation. The most powerful movements for change have always been rooted in community. People who see each other, hold each other accountable, and lift each other up. And third, your story, your complete, unfiltered story is your superpower. Embracing every part of your experience, including the struggles, is what fuels authentic leadership and inspires change in others. Too often, we're told to sanitize our narratives, to hide the messy parts, to present only polished perfection. But it's precisely those raw, real elements of our journeys that connect us most deeply with others and catalyze transformation. These insights might sound simple, but their implications are revolutionary. Let me illustrate through some powerful examples that Tanya shared with me. Consider the work of Shireen Hatcher, a visionary leader in Black entrepreneurship who has pioneered an approach focused on both internal liberation and community support. Hatcher observed something fascinating. Many talented Black professionals felt stuck, not only due to systemic barriers, but because of deeply ingrained beliefs about their own limitations. They don't just random doubts, they were the psychological residue of generations of messaging that said, you don't belong here, you're not qualified enough, you should be grateful for whatever opportunity comes your way. These messages had become so internalized that they functioned as invisible barriers. just as real and just as limiting as any external obstacle. Recognizing this pattern, Hatcher developed programs encouraging participants to confront these internal narratives while building intentional communities where vulnerability was embraced rather than hidden. The results were remarkable. Participants reported renewed confidence, bolder career moves, and increased willingness to advocate for themselves and others. One participant, a brilliant marketing executive, had been passed over for promotion 3 times despite consistently outperforming her peers. Through Hatcher's program, she realized she had been unconsciously minimizing her achievements in performance reviews, using language that undermined her contributions. She had been doing this not because of any lack of confidence in her abilities, but because she had absorbed messages about what was appropriate for someone like her. Once she recognized this pattern, she was able to reframe her approach, advocate effectively for herself, and not only secure the promotion, but restructure the department to be more equitable for everyone. Hatcher's journey began after noticing her own self doubt despite professional success. She realized this struggle was widespread among her peers, a collective wound that needed collective healing. Her initiative has led workshops nationwide, helping hundreds reframe their self perception while simultaneously advocating for structural change. This dual approach has inspired organizations across sectors to adopt similar models, showing that true progress requires both personal healing and collective action. What makes Hatcher's work so powerful is the recognition that external and internal liberation must happen in tandem. One without the other creates change that cannot sustain itself. Let's look at another powerful example that Tanya Williams highlighted: Blavity Inc., founded by Morgan DeBon. This company has become a leading media platform serving Black millennials through authentic storytelling. At launch, Blavity faced significant skepticism from investors who doubted its audience size or commercial viability. There were also cultural pressures to conform their content style for mainstream appeal, to dilute their voice, to make it more palatable. But Devon made a counterintuitive choice. Rather than bending to these pressures, she doubled down on authenticity, prioritizing stories that reflected real experiences rather than diluting them. She invested in community driven events like Afro Tech that celebrated Black excellence in technology. The result? Blavity grew rapidly into one of the most influential voices online for young Black professionals, and Afrotech became one of America's largest tech conferences centered around diversity. DeBon's backstory reveals why this approach resonated so deeply. She had noticed that traditional media rarely reflected her lived reality or those of her peers. She built Blavity out of dorm room conversations seeking representation online. The company secured millions in venture funding and expanded into multiple verticals, including travel through Travel Noir and technology through Afrotech. But more importantly, Blavity transformed perceptions around what Black media could be and proved that centering authentic voices drives both community upliftment and business success. This example powerfully illustrates Tanya Williams' insight that your story is your superpower. By refusing to diminish or sanitize Black experiences to appeal to a mainstream audience, Devon created something far more valuable: a platform where people could see themselves fully represented. The third powerful example Tanya shared focuses on Walker's Legacy, an organization founded by Natalie Madeira Cofield, dedicated specifically to empowering multicultural women entrepreneurs through education, networks, and mentorships. Women founders, particularly women of color, faced unique challenges securing funding due not only to external biases, but also to doubt stemming from a lack of visible role models or mentors who looked like them. This absence created both practical obstacles and psychological barriers. Walker's legacy addressed this gap by creating cohort based programs pairing emerging entrepreneurs with established leaders sharing similar backgrounds and tackled mindset shifts alongside practical business training. This comprehensive approach yielded impressive results. Alumni report higher rates of business survival and growth versus national averages among minority women owned startups. Cofield started Walker's legacy after struggling herself with isolation as a founder. She envisioned spaces where women could see themselves reflected at every stage of the entrepreneurial journey. The organization expanded nationally with chapters in over 15 cities and has been recognized by White House initiatives supporting minority entrepreneurship. What's particularly notable about Walker's legacy is how it helped shift national conversations toward intersectionality within entrepreneurship ecosystems and demonstrated measurable results when holistic support meets cultural resonance. These three examples illuminate a profound truth that Tanya Williams articulated so eloquently. The most transformative work happens at the intersection of internal and external change. We've been taught to believe that success is primarily about overcoming external barriers, breaking glass ceilings, securing funding, gaining access to networks. And these things matter tremendously. But what these stories reveal is that equally important is the work of healing from internalized limitations, the subtle ways we've been conditioned to doubt our capabilities, minimize our contributions, or shrink our visions. This insight challenges conventional wisdom about empowerment. It suggests that workshops on confidence building aren't just soft supplements to the real work of policy change and institutional reform. They're essential components of lasting transformation. It suggests that creating spaces where Black professionals can be vulnerable about their struggles isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for unleashing their full potential. It suggests that embracing and sharing our complete stories, including the parts marked by struggle, doubt, or pain, isn't a distraction from professional advancement, but a powerful catalyst for it. So I ask you today, what would our world look like if we embrace this model of double liberation? If we recognize that dismantling external barriers while healing internal wounds creates a synergy far more powerful than either approach alone? I challenge you to examine your own life and work. Where have you been focusing solely on external change while neglecting internal liberation? Where have you been working on personal growth without connecting it to systemic transformation? What would become possible if you integrated these approaches? And more importantly, who around you needs to hear this message? Who in your circle, your organization, your community is fighting external battles while carrying the weight of internalized limitations? How might you create spaces where both forms of liberation can happen simultaneously? The revolution we need won't be found in choosing between personal transformation and systemic change. It will emerge when we recognize that these are not competing priorities, but complementary forces that, when aligned, can create unprecedented breakthrough. As Tanya Williams reminds us, the sky isn't the limit, it's just the beginning. Our potential, individually and collectively, is boundless when we commit to this double liberation. The world is waiting for the fullness of who we are. It's time to break every chain, both those we can see and those we've carried within for far too long. The future belongs to those with the courage to pursue this double liberation. Will you be among them?